Hey, Paul.
Fab, how are you?
You good yourself?
Good.
All right. We're back. It's been a while.
Yeah, back from vacation.
Cool.
Well,
You seem excited.
yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. All right. So today we want to talk about sales process. We've been kind of talking about working more conjointly on sales process, HubSpot stuff. And so I was asking you a few questions. And I know you had some stuff to cover, but I think what my initial question I think would be is, I see a lot of owners, co-founders, CEO, leaders, like business leaders, let's say, regardless of what their actual title is. And, sales have a sales process. And without being like a deep expert on the ins and outs of all different sales processes, like I find it ends up not really being a sales process. It just seems like some tasks or stuff that happens. It's kind of almost arbitrarily set, right? Like, I guess we'll do a demo at this point, and it's kind of almost, I work with a lot of startups, so it's almost like the first salesperson kind of determined how he or she prefers working, and that's kind of how the sales process is. But he had some nice insights as to what a sales process should be and whatnot. So talk to us a bit more about the sales process.
Okay, well, let's talk about the mechanical stuff. And the mechanical stuff is organization, methodology, and semantics.
Okay.
So if you're alone, like you and I are alone in our companies,
Right.
mostly, sometimes we hire each other or whatever, but
yeah.
So staying organized is very important, right? Just to make sure following up with this person, and particularly in sales, because you're not at the delivery stage yet, right? You're mostly looking to organize what it is, like when did I talk to him, when do I do it? So whatever is in a CRM, essentially.
Yeah.
It'll keep you organized. And let's call it HubSpot. So it'll keep you organized, it'll keep you in line. So that's the first thing. Now, your sales process per se is in there to help you keep you organized, but the sales process is also what you need to do to find the clients who you're going to help or you're going to do something with, right? So what's the goal of your sales process? So if you have, if you're organized and you have a consultative sales process, while you're asking questions, you're finding things out to try to help your client. And you're also, you're disqualifying some people, right? So your sales process is, I'm qualifying these people, I'm disqualifying these, and I'm asking all the right questions. So, and you define all those things. Well, that's a methodology. So if you have a consultative methodology, well, then you're deciding, you're asking questions to find out what the problem is, and then you're trying to see how your solution will help them get to their objectives. That's your methodology, right? Yeah. So that needs to be in there too. You need to know, okay, what are the questions I'm going to ask at one point? What am I going to do? How am I going to do this? What does it mean if they answer this? What does it mean if they answer that? And how can I help them? And again, how do I qualify and disqualify?
And so when you say methodology, though, it's like challenge a sale or all those things, right?
Yeah, yes, but it's also the methodology of your sales process.
Okay.
So, let's forget all the buzzwords. It's what you got to do at the which point of the game.
Okay. Nice.
Like I've asked this question.
Your game plan. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I need to know, of course, I need to find out how much money they're willing to invest. Are they willing to go forward? Are they qualified? Can I help them? What's their motivation? What are they trying to achieve? How am I going to help them there? That's all part of being consultative. That's your methodology. So, if you're a transactional salesperson, well, I'm trying to sell you these reading glasses, and at the end of a counter, and like it doesn't matter what you really need, or I don't know, or this cup,
Right.
But most of the clients we're dealing with are somewhat have to be. It's a complex sale, and complex sale. The methodology is consultative, but specifically to you, what's the methodology? What are you needing to find out in your business to help you move forward?
Right.
And then what people often forget, particularly when they're using a CRM and they have a few reps and let's say they have their methodology down pretty good, they have a good CRM, is the semantics. Because for you, an opportunity might mean, I know the guy's name. For me, an opportunity might mean I know his name, I know how much they're willing to invest, I know when they want to go forward. So what we call things is very important. The language we use and how we define things is very important in deciding which stage of the process we're in. So And where I've seen things fall down the most is using the CRM to help the salespeople rather than just being a note-taking machine. And if you don't have a good sales process, like what do I do at stage 1? What do I do at stage 2? Let's say your sales process is 5 stages. Well, then what are all those stages and how do they make sense? You're not just throwing things out there. You really need to know what it is that is closing a stage. So
right.
You and I have often talked about this. You've got the introduction stage or the discovery, the lead stage. Well, what does that mean? And then you've got the discovery stage next to that. What does that mean? And then you've got, a lot of discovery, and we've even combined 2 stages into one. And then you've got what we call the confirmation stage, right? So we're confirming everything that we've discovered,
right?
Where we understand. And then we've got the presentation. So we're presenting according to what's been confirmed and discovered. And
right.
then from there is an easy close, right? Because if you're
right.
presenting to fix the issues that have been uncovered, well, then you're there.
Gotcha.
Within
yep.
there's a bunch of milestones, that we're setting in there. Milestones. And they're all different, but it's all similar. A sales process is you're going from lead to, qualified to closing, right? So that's your process. But how you get there and what you talk about is very different for each company and how you manage it and whatnot. So that's important as well.
Right. And so, and I don't know, maybe this is a curveball, but, let's say I do work with a lot of startups and most of the people are not salespeople. They tend to be product people, whether they're engineers or more, strategy, vision people. So they obviously, a lot of them don't have sales expertise. Like a lot of them end up doing sales at a very early stage and it's very just all over the place. So, but it works just because basically ultimately they have the will to make it happen. Like they need to make it happen, right? But as they scale, they're having a hard time processing what they've been doing. And so how can you go, let's say how you go from a framework where I'm kind of just doing whatever it takes to close a sale and you're not really quite sure what's working. You're just making it happen to making it a process. Like, do you need to sit down and put stuff down on paper and think things through? Or can you make it iterative? Like, okay, generally speaking, this is what I do. And let's start with this and then grow it and stuff like that.
It's not really a curveball. It's what happens to most people, right? It's a good question, Fab, because if what you're doing is working, it's great, right? Now, if you're trying to create more efficiency, well, then you've got to look into it and really understand what it is that you're doing that's working, right? Mm-hmm. It's sort of like going to play golf, tennis, or whatever sport with someone. And say, "Wow, you're really good at that. Could you explain?" I don't know what I'm doing. I just swing the ball.
Yeah.
Swing at the ball, and I just whatever. So, if you're trying to multiply that success. Sales is very much a communications game, right? An interaction game, but there's still some things that you're trying to discover along the way. Mm. And in your methodology, we've talked about this a lot before, being consultative is about asking a lot of open questions to find out what's important to your client. One, to find out what's important to your client. 2, to qualify them. Can you really help them?
Right.
So it's really all about that, and how you do it in your sales process is how you define your pipeline, right? So where are you at really with the different people you have in your pipeline? So most pipelines, have, at the top of the pipeline, it's let's say X10 or X20. And then at the bottom, well, you end up closing, 1/5 or 5% or 10% of what you have in the top of the pipeline. So it's really a way to more or less structure what's going on, but also to help you move through those different stages, right?
Right.
And then what's even more important with these people that are not salespeople is for them to understand what it is that they're doing right to get them to sell. Because if you're saying, I've got a bunch of people who are selling this product and they're not salespeople, well, they are salespeople because they're selling the product.
Right.
But they need to understand what they do well, right? And maybe tweak to do better. So that's where your sales process also becomes a sales assistant.
Yeah.
Because it reminds you, did you ask this question? Did you find this out? Did you find that out? And what question goes along with that? So it's basically a customized checklist of many, many different milestones that you need to go through to make sure that you're finding out what's important to close your sale.
Right.
and to know if your client is qualified for what you should be doing.
Right. And so on that note, and I think we've touched on this before, so maybe this is just...
Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. That's why I had a further follow-up question to that is, how do I know when there's something wrong with my sales process? Like, so obviously the easy answer would be like, okay, work with Paul and Fab and we'll build your sales process, implement it in HubSpot, boom, it's done. Obviously some people, believe it or not, don't know about us. And so we'll try to do it themselves. So what kind of advice can we give to somebody who's like trying to do it themselves? They're, let's give a use case, right? I'm a company, the business is doing well. Like I'm generating revenue. But whatever, I need to scale. And so how do I know if how I'm selling is working or not? Like, are there things that I should be paying attention to?
Well, there's a couple of things here, Fab. So if your company is doing really well and you like the way things are going, and you're going to hate the answer, you're going to say, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Right.
But if you're trying to create more efficiency, or your company is going well, but you're doing well, but you want it to do even better, and you want to see if we have the opportunity of swinging that club better. I'm hitting 90 on the golf course, but by the way, I'm not a golfer, so I don't know. I'm hitting 100 on the golf course and I'd like to shoot 90. Well, then you got to figure out what's wrong. But if you're happy with shooting 100, well, don't change anything.
Right.
But most companies we know in today's market would like to be more efficient, better at doing what they're doing, more competitive. Now, in the last year, particularly in manufacturing and construction, all these things, companies have done extremely well. So some people have done well in spite of themselves. And what some people are saying is like, well, I want to do well after things get harder.
Right.
I want my people to be well trained. So how do you discover it? You do need to go into it and look at where the inefficiencies are.
Yeah.
There could be inefficiencies on the mechanical sides, right? Are you organized? Do you have a methodology and semantics? But in the methodology, there's a very practical applied situation where your methodology, the questions you're asking, how you're doing it, that's where you'll create a lot of the efficiency, right?
Right.
You figured that out, well, then you'll put it in your sales process, and it'll remind you of all the human things you need to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
CRM is just a CRM, but it reminds you of all the questions you need to ask and all the things you need to do. And there you can find out, but it's hard to know how much more efficient you can be if you're not looking at outside sources to see if you could be more efficient. So unfortunately, you might have to hire a guy like because you only know what you know, right?
Right.
Sit down and play guitar. Unless I go watch a YouTube video or hire someone to help me get better, I just by playing something over and over again, I'll play it well, but I won't necessarily get better.
Right. And I think what I'm hearing in there too is like, you're right in terms of like how to improve it. You might need to go exteriorly, but look at some exterior help. Wow. Returning from vacation is fine on speaking. But what I know, like, it's also what I heard you say over there is like kind of looking at what's working. Like if you can't answer, like, why are we doing this stage? What are we hoping to, what's the point of this stage? Like, why are we doing a demo? Like if you can't answer the whys of certain questions of like why we're doing certain things, like that's kind of talks to the mechanics a bit. And I think there's the data too, right? If you're looking at your pipeline and seeing that deals are stagnating maybe at certain stages, or your conversion rate between when, there's a massive drop off between a conversion rate between, let's say, stage 1 and stage 2, but then stage 3, they like completely, like when there's something that seems off, or when you can't answer the basic why are we doing this, or why is it dropping off, I think that's maybe a sign that there could be some improvement.
Yes. Yeah. If you're doing everything instinctively, then it's instinctive. If you're trying to write down or understand or annotate what you do, then you're going to fall into a situation where you can improve yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because a lot of people get better that way, right? So over my vacation, I started playing chess a lot, and I'm playing just with this interactive video game, and I'm getting a lot better. But to get to the next stage, I'll probably need to take a little tutorial to see, well, okay, what are the strategies we can specifically do? Well, it's like that in anything, right?
Right.
How to get better. And I like chess because chess is very mechanical, right? But there's also a lot of, when you're playing with another human being, there's emotion. Like when they get angry, you did this or did that. So sales is very similar that way. So you're trying to figure out the human being, also following a very specific process, because a lot of what we do as human beings, like, we're selling a specific product to help with certain things, but it's all fit into having communication with a sentient human being who is making a decision based on emotion.
Right.
So you do need to have a sales process to make yourself as good as you can at understanding those said sentient human beings to be able to help them in their businesses by selling them the product that you're trying to sell them. So your sales process breaks that down, and it's to figure out what it is you do well and what it is you could improve. So to your point, even if you're doing really well, you will have to look at the things, read up. You can read, you could go on YouTube, you could probably figure out a lot of things on your own, and then figure out where the gaps and the holes are in making yourselves more efficient.
And I think if you bring it back to the beginning, I think you said it well. I think especially for let's say a company that's going from, let's say, early stage to like scaling or whatever, like, when you're doing it yourself, you kind of have this, you're doing a lot of instinctual stuff, but as you're hiring salespeople, you kind of have to step away from the instinctual stuff because everybody's instincts is different. There's a good chance your salespeople won't care as much as you, because it's not, for them, it's just a job. It's not their company. And so you need to start getting into this process of like, how are we doing to close people? And if you're just saying like, well, you do a demo first, and then, you ask for their budget, and then, you send a contract, and let's say you just want to try that out, right? You start looking and seeing like, okay, a lot of people are asking for demos, but then, the second you send off a contract, like 90% of the people drop off. There's probably a sign that there's something going wrong there, right? Like your translation from instinctual to scalable is not working, and so that's when you need to start revising and optimizing and improving.
The biggest mistake, Fab, is, like you said, you need to optimize your process, because even more than with chess, human beings buy on emotion. So if you're missing that opportunity of openness, the person, you've talked to the person, they're open to buying, you need to talk to them when they're open, because that emotion, unfortunately, is not always rational. Right. Even though your points have been tied into rationality and emotion, you have a window of opportunity. You need to create the conversation and the situation where you're opening up the person's emotion. If you don't have a very well-defined sales process where you understand where technical and emotional fall in, and you don't define the questions and the things you need to do to open up those people emotionally, to be even open to listen to you, well, then you're closing the door. I'll give you a very specific example. Okay, it's an analogy, but it's a very specific one. If I walk down the street, okay, I just walk up to you and I say, do you like coffee? You'll probably come back, right? Now, if I walk up to you casually, say, hey, how's it going? Oh, fine, right? I'm engaging in normal human interaction, and I say, I don't know your name. Can I just ask you one? Sure, go ahead. I'm doing this report. I'm doing this analysis, or this whatever you call it, study, and I'm just randomly asking people if they like coffee. Yeah, I love coffee. Like, look at the difference there. And really, it's the same question. Right. It's the same thing. What I'm really doing is I'm framing the different behaviors that need to be done to open you up so that you'll answer my question. The same in sales. Often what we do in our sales process is, okay, discovery. Ask these questions. Do you have a software? Do you like the software? Does it work? Why don't you use software? We have a software that could help you more. And I'm exaggerating, but it's the same thing. Which is your sales process is going through the methodology, your organized methodology, semantics, if you want to talk to other people in your company, organized methodology to open up the human being for them to be rational. Because
Right.
if you don't open them up, they won't even interact with you.
Gotcha.
I don't know. I explained it. I don't know. Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. I like that. And honestly, good thing is it opened up a whole bunch of other questions for me that we'll tackle over the next couple of weeks. Yes.
And by the way, folks, before we got on, Fab said, I don't even know if I remember how to do this.
That's been too long. 3 weeks is a lot.
Just ask me a couple questions and I won't shut up. So there you go.
There you go. So the trick to a good podcast is to get yourself a co-host that just likes to talk.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it makes sense once in a while.
Once in a while. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Paul.
Ciao.
Bye.